Hello and welcome to Kelly's Anesthesia Tips. Today is the long-awaited Spank block video, but unfortunately Dr. Donahue and I never really got our schedules together to do this, and I really hated to keep pushing it off and pushing it off. So I am going to attempt this myself and trying just to give you some great information that I have from a coder friend of mine, Doris the Coder. I'm going to reference her. I'm going to reference some places that you might be able to find this, but best of all, I'm going to tell you what the consensus was for coding of the Spank block, because it's still really hard to find information on blocks and coding that you can rely on the computer. So in this case, I have the search. First I tried the Spank block, and that didn't come up with a lot of stuff except technical things. And on the videos, it was not anything I think we wanted to watch. It was more towards spanking. So let's stay away from that one. So I went back and put in the sensory posterior articular nerves of the knee muscles. So the first thing that I want to say is that when you have new blocks or blocks that are new to you, you kind of have to make sure you can sit down with someone clinical to get a good understanding. And if you don't have the clinical, hopefully, or access to someone, these videos are helpful to you. So Doris the Coder had actually written in on a subscription that she has, describing the block and asking the most appropriate code to report that, because it is a sensory posterior block for the articular nerves of the knee. The response was 64450. Now I want to show you these two codes two different ways. First, I want to go to our 2022 relative value guide. The copyright's the year before, because this is that's when they do the printing of it. And then we get them for our 2022 codes. I've highlighted because this does say injection into any an anesthetic agent or steroid into other peripheral nerve or branch. Other peripheral nerves are your unnamed nerves. What gives us such pause on this sometimes is because they aren't always injecting the nerve. In this particular one with the Spank block, they are. Sometimes they're injecting into a plane. So you may get information that tells you that you have to code it to an unlisted, etc. So these are, as I said, sometimes very difficult to work with. But we know now that we have a response that 64450 is a correct code for the Spank block. And it has a work relative value unit, or RVU, of 0.75. Since this is not an unlisted code, we really don't have to send anything with the Spank block, and you are allowed to modify if necessary. So if you're doing a Spank block as a post-operative pain management, you have your 59 and your X codes, XU, XS, XP, whichever are applicable. And that's not a problem. What I did want to go ahead and mention while I'm here is that I pulled up another resource just to kind of explain something to you guys about the difference between the RVUs versus what they used to look like. So if you've been encoding for a while, you have to go all the way back to the 2018 relative value guide, and here 2018 relative value guide. Other peripheral nerve or branch, and you'll notice that this one had a 5 as a base unit value. I think part of the problem with this, though, is that sometimes people were putting 5 for the number, and it looked like maybe they were doing 5 injections when they're only doing 1. So they had done totally away with these base unit values and put them into the relative value work units that are now listed here. One of the other things about this is a way that in past practice we used to kind of calculate what we billed for the block. So if they told us if we had a 5 base unit for this, and you know me, you know I love the round numbers. If our conversion factor was $100, then we would charge $500 for the block. So that was a good way for us to establish what our charge would be. And then now it's a little bit harder to do that with that work relative value unit. So if you took that same $100 conversion and applied it to that, you would be more looking at something like, let me see if I can move this over here so we can share it. If not, I'll just do it for you. We would take our $100 conversion factor times 0.075, and that would be a $75 charge, which doesn't quite work out the same way. That's a huge discrepancy there. So I just wanted to make sure you have an understanding of the difference between a work value and a relative value, particularly if you are calculating your known charges. All right, so before I move on, I want to go ahead and pop over to Doris the Coder, my friend who shared this with me. And if you'll give me just a moment, there we go. All right, Doris the Coder. So she also posted a video not long ago shouting, coding shout out for regional anesthesiology and acute pain medicine. Now, I'm not going to play it here, but hopefully you guys will go subscribe and play hers as well. And I thank Doris very much. She's such a kind friend of mine for sharing the information on the Spank block. I also do some editing for some articles for different publications, and hopefully something will be coming out on that Spank block soon. It was kind of like in a hold pattern until we all got on a page that was comfortable for us. All right, before I wrap this up, I did want to come over here to the YouTube, show you there are videos, but you're not going to find them for the Spanks. I didn't. Just putting that in, they had all sorts of different ones, but I didn't find those. So if you need a more clinical explanation, I guess, you know what, you could either ask me and I'll see if I can set something up with Dr. Donahue to maybe explain that for us at a different time. Just shoot me a message in the comments. But I did want to share something else that I think is very important, because blocks are difficult whether you're a new coder or I say a seasoned, just because I could say old coder, but seasoned sounds so much nicer. So whether you're an old seasoned coder or a new coder, sometimes these blocks really throw us for loops. And I ran across one recently that, you know, if you're coding your blocks from old information, you want to make sure that you try to stay up to date. The internet is a great resource. It really, really is. I'm just going to go over here and see if we put in CPT code. I didn't do this, so this is on the fly. All right, so there are some up here that kind of pop up, but you got to be really careful with things. So the code that we just talked about, 64450, for the other peripheral nerve, peripheral meaning outside of the central nervous system, that does pop up, but then so do all of these others. So just be very careful with that. You want to make sure if you are using a resource, and I'm just going to, Medac is a billing company that has good resources. I had done a video on IPAC blocks separately, and I'm going to pop over here and see if this is the one that they gave information about new code for the IPAC block. No, that's still the unlisted. But if you go to my YouTube channel, I'll try it for us. I did some updating on the... Go to my YouTube channel, look up the IPAC, and I did some updating there, and you should be able to find that article that updated the coding for that. So I hope that was helpful to everyone, and glad to finally be able to check this off my list. It's been taped to my computer for probably right at a year now. So if you watch me, you know I like to leave with, the anesthesia is a small world. We need to keep our anesthesia friends close to us. So be kind to one another. Generous with your knowledge. I thank you for your time, and if you want to catch the new videos and such, subscribe and you'll get a notification for new content. So thank you and enjoy the rest of your